I don't know if this is live. I'll wait a few minutes. Let's see. Hello. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm just gonna wait a few seconds. I'm gonna talk about everything that happened with Charles and from the beginning right up until now, so everyone could have the information of everything that's going on. I don't know if can everyone hear me. I hope they can. Can you hear me? Hello. Yes. Okay. So I'll start off from the beginning. Charles and I we went to Walmart to go and pick up some chicken and stuff from one of my videos. And Charles also has some knee problems, so he does have to use a cane a bit. But he's on a waiting list to get knee surgery, knee surgery. So he has to drive around in a cart. You know what I mean? Because he has a lot of pain in his knees and stuff. And so we were going shopping. I mean, it's always fun. He tried to run me over once, jokingly, of course. So when we came back from the Walmart, um, Charles was helping me cook the chicken and prepare it and stuff, and then he poured me this nice scotch like drink with an ice, and and I was up late because I worked that night, like the night before, and I was up pretty much the whole time after when we went shopping. I didn't sleep yet. So I had a drink or two and we were preparing the chicken and stuff, and then I told him that, I need to sleep a bit, right? So um so I went to like before I went to sleep, my roommate was asking me to if I can drive him to work, and I said, well, I asked Charles if it was okay if he can do it because I already had two drinks and I didn't want to, drink and drive and stuff, or which I never would anyways. I just told him that I didn't want to drive him and would it be possible if he can drive him, and he said it was okay. So I went to sleep, and then I woke up to my roommate. Well, my roommate woke me up. It was roughly probably almost 9:15 at night, and he was telling me how Charles was having chest pains. And so thought I could. And when I came in, I found Charles sitting on the couch with his head back. His eyes were rolling back, and it almost seemed like as if he was taking. I'm sorry. Like he was taking a seizure. I called 911 and they put me on hold. Yeah. We live like a block away from the hospital. A little bit further than that, maybe. And then my roommate tried to call and stuff to see if we can get through, and he was on hold as well. And then they started playing like the music in the background and stuff. And you're waiting and waiting, and your husband is just like almost looks like he's taking a seizure and is sitting there, and you can't really do anything. And I'm trying to talk to him and like get his focus and stuff like that, and snapping and trying to get his attention and stuff. And then he's like, stuff is coming from out of his mouth. So, which it seemed like an hour or something. I'm sure it wasn't really that long, but I mean, the ambulance finally came. Well, sorry, we were on the phone with the person, and she was telling me that they put him on his side, right? So Charles weighs 250 pounds, he's 6'1", right? And I said, I mean, I can't drag him on the floor, you know what I mean? I would be afraid to, you know, hurting him even more or something. So I laid him on the side on the couch and, put him on the side so that way, because he was having some stuff come out and things. And then not too long after that, the ambulance ended up coming at the door. Two of them came because we did call two, and they were, asking for his medications, his identifications. They ended up like putting him on the floor, cutting off all his shirt and everything like that. They asked me if he was a drug user. I mean, seriously. And I said, no, of course not. But, you know what I mean? I guess they just have to ask those questions. So, um, I was trying to find his Medicare cards and stuff and search around for his, he has this medical alert bracelet that's on his chain and stuff because he's allergic to certain medications. And I was just like, so best. It was, my mind was all over. My mind was all over the place, but I managed to find everything that I needed, right? And so they took him and they brought him to the hospital. And I walked down because obviously they didn't take me with them, right? So it wasn't that far. So I walked down to the hospital, and then they asked me who I was, and I said I'm Charles's husband, and he just came in by ambulance, and so on. And so I ended up speaking to one of the doctors inside, and they told me that Charles had a major stroke to the point where the artery near his heart bursted, right? But there was still not completely, right? And that he would need a major surgery and that I would have to sign off on it, right? So I'm like, I'm fine, sign the papers and stuff, but the thing is that they can't do it at this hospital, right? So they had to take him and bring him to Kelowna General Hospital, which is like 45 minutes, 50 minutes away from our place, roughly. And so they told me that they asked, does he have a do not resuscitate? Right. I said, we've never discussed it, but I said, no, I want him to be resuscitated no matter what, you know? And they told me, they made me sign papers. And then they told me that the ambulance will be taking him to go to the hospital. And I asked if I can go in the ambulance, considering the fact that I have to sign off on the the operation for when I got there. And they told me, no, I can't go in the ambulance with him. So they left. And then I had to walk back home, collect myself, collect all my things, everything, you know what I mean, that you just went through. And it was like 9 o'clock at night. And from our place going to Kelowna, which I've never really been, I did use GPS and stuff, but the roads are so windy. And we have like a Calamar Lake on one side, I might be not saying it, and then mountains all on the other, and the roads are all windy and stuff. And it's pitch black, there's no lights at all. So you have to like put your high beams on, off to actually see anything. I was like slowing down at a lot of points because, you know what I mean, you can barely even see with your lights on. Not the high beams, of course, but yeah. So as I was going on the way to the hospital, um, the doctor was calling me and wondering where I was, you know what I mean? Because they had to wait for me to sign off before they can do the operation. And, you know, I didn't answer the phone, but I ended up arriving at Kelowna General Hospital, parking and everything, coming in, and then they're like, "Oh, who are you?" I said, "I'm here for Charles Marie. He just came in from an ambulance, and my name is Sean Linus. I'm his husband." And they started saying, "Okay, so does Charles have any other family members?" And I'm like, "No, I mean his sister." No, but I think she has dementia. I'm not 100% sure. They don't talk really that much. They haven't talked in a while. I said, I'm his husband and I'm the only person. And then they ended up taking to me where Charles had all these tubes, all these things connected to him and everything, and it was just like crazy. And I just broke down. Like, I mean, just broke down. And then they're drawing this thing like with his heart and telling me what's gonna happen and what they need to do and stuff like that. And then I ended up signing the papers, and they were telling me that it's gonna be 10 hours the operation. And they told me that he has a 20% chance of surviving just the operation, waking up from it. And if he does survive the operation, like through the operation without passing during the operation, I mean, they said that was 20%. And then they said that he has 20% of surviving the waking up from the operation after, right? So I'm like, yeah, let's do the operation. I mean, there was no way that I was never going to do the operation. I said, let's just do the operation. Let's, you know what I mean? And they told me that maybe I should go home because it's going to be a really long road, right? Like it's going to take 10 hours. And they told me to, go home, try to sleep, try to first, they did ask if I was able to drive, like, because of everything that had happened. And so basically, I just went home, drove home, and then, didn't really sleep much. But I did end up getting the phone call the next day. And they were saying how the operation was a success. So what they had to do is they built some sort of cage type thing near his heart and connected the main artery. I might be off on this, maybe someone else will know, that runs from his heart all the way down to the bottom of his foot, like to his foot, the main artery, right? So that's what they all like replaced and restructured and everything. I mean, the first day when I came into the hospital to see him, he had like thousands and thousands. It just seemed like wires everywhere, like tubes all over him and everything like that. And it was just like, I mean, I couldn't take it. I mean, it was just so devastating. It was just so hard. So hard. But I had some good doctors. And when they did do an MRI on him when they were in the hospital, so they had some sort of scale of what was happening. But they didn't do an overall or something like that. I don't know. It was just strange. But they did end up, not right away, but did show me, they did tell me that on the right side of his brain, he has a portion of from the stroke, right? But they didn't know the percentage of it. So for a while, it was sort of very stressful because the fact is we were waiting for this MRI to find out exactly where Charles stands. You know what I mean? If they should proceed with the care because it's all riding on this scan, right? And they're like, okay, so tomorrow the scan will be done. Never happened. 2 days after, all the scan will be done, and nothing happened. I mean, the good thing is that Charles was stable the whole time. I mean, which is good. Wasn't getting worse, wasn't getting better, but at least he was stable. And I mean, I was just happy with that. But so they ended up moving him to a different room, right? That was the day that the day after when I came in and he had all kinds of tubes and stuff, multiple tubes and things like that. And then the next day they ended up moving him to a different room. I was like, I didn't understand why, but they did. And then he had all those like thousands of tubes, would seem like thousands of tubes and stuff like that, were pretty much gone. There was a lot gone from him, which was, I guess, assuming a good sign. And it was just like hard seeing, your husband, your partner to be, with tubes in his mouth and machines helping him breathe and all that. I understood, but they kept on talking about that usually Charles should be waking up from the operation because they said that he was off the anesthesia. It was out of his system and he still wasn't waking up. So, and that was the worriest, like the second issue of where they said that 20% that he would probably not wake up, right? I mean, 20% that he would wake up from it. And that was the worrying, like worrying a lot about that. Every day I went to see him. I mean, there are the odd days that I couldn't because, just the hardship. Like, I was just too, I mean, worn out, stressed, where I didn't feel that I could drive the distance. But so we ended up getting this doctor, right? And they ended up getting the MRI finally. And the doctor told me, the good doctor, he told me, he said that we don't have the report on it, but we do have the scans. He said, "Do you want me to show you the scans?" And I said, "Yes." Because it was all writing on that, right? The scans to see if they would move forward taking care of Charles. So, despite the fact that we didn't have the report on it, but he just was looking at it visually, he said, "It's what I thought from the beginning, that on the right side, they don't know, like I talked, they don't know the percentage of it, but it looked like a decent size from the stroke. And on the left side, he has a section, small little things, where he said it might affect his eyes. Also, there was another small little section where he wasn't sure, but he said he might have some sort of I don't know exactly, he wasn't 100% sure, but he did know one section. And he did say that it's going to be a long journey for Charles. He's going to go, it could be weeks, months, rehabilitation. There's going to be a lot that needs to be done. But, also, he brought on to the table, which I guess assuming that they have to do no matter what, is that he told me that if it was me and if Charles's heart were to stop, that he would not resuscitate him, bring him back. And I was like, when he said that, I was like, sort of like just broke. And he told me, and he said, I just have to say that, right? He said, there's nothing, his heart is good, everything is fine, and everything is, there's nothing like, I'm not saying that because his heart, there's something wrong with his heart and things like that. He's just said that it's, I have to just say these things. I have to put it on the table, right? And he said that, he told me, he goes, we will do every single thing that we can in order to help Charles. If Charles needs medications for his heart, if he needs this for his heart, if he needs that for his heart, they'll do everything in their power. But they said if it still comes to the point that his heart would stop, right? Even after everything that they did, he felt that it would be better for Charles not to, for them to not resuscitate him, because that it would just create more further damages for him. And they wouldn't know exactly the outcome of that for Charles. So, you know, and he strictly said, there, I'm not saying now, I'm not saying when, I'm just saying if this were to happen, right? He made it clear to me. So I was happy that, you know what I mean, I would take a long road. Any day. So, Charles got moved again, and then he got another doctor. This doctor wasn't so nice. It was just the day after the previous doctor, and I went to visit him, and I'm holding him and hugging him, and, you know, trying to get as close as possible. You always think of these things, you know, like when something happens, and you're like, I just wish I was closer. I just wish that I kissed them, or I, you know. Okay, so the new doctor came in, introduced himself, right? And straight up said to me that I was making Charles suffer. He said that Charles is suffering. I mean, if I were you, basically, in not so many words, that I would be pulling the plug. You're suffering him, you're a bad husband, basically. Uh, all these negative like things, like, and I just heard like this positive thing where he has a long journey and stuff, and this doctor just came across almost like he was the one that, you know what I mean, where, oh, we have to get this person out of the bed or something because we need it for someone else or something. It just how it came across to me. And he just basically, it almost seemed like as if he just wanted to pull the plug on Charles immediately. And it was so fucking devastating, excuse my language, and making me out like this horrible, disgusting person. Which I know I'm not. But I just can't believe how someone could just say that. I had a friend with me. Luckily, you know, he came in from Montreal, flew here to be with me, and he was there to witness it all. And it was just so disgusting, so distasteful. So I don't know. I mean, and I just sort of like, I just couldn't take it anymore. Like, I was just, I left. Not right, like right away. I stayed for a little bit, but I was just mostly emotionally just messed up in my head, and I just didn't want to have these like negative, you know, things when Charles is right there. I mean, talking about it while he's just, Charles is laying there, and then talking about how, oh, we should be unplugging him basically, and how I'm so torturing him, and, you know, and all this stuff. And this is like what, days after this huge 10-hour operation where they open his whole chest. And then you have this doctor fucking telling me this. Well, I didn't speak my mind. I held myself back. I mean, I don't know how I did, but I mean, I just figured that, now that he's his doctor, I'd rather try to, stay on a more on his good side, I guess, considering the fact that he's taking care of my husband. Well, the nurses and everything there are just fabulous. I mean, seriously, I mean, they're taking such amazing good care of Charles. I mean, I'm just so happy for them being there because him, no. So, me and Michael, we went to the hospital. We went like 3 days in a row. I mean, and then on Michael's last day, um, I was like, I would like open Charles's eyelid, like just to see, you know what I mean, to see, because I saw his eyes were, moving and things, and I just wanted to see, and it almost like I opened his lid, and it almost looked like he was just like, his eye went like this, came and was looking at me, right? And it was like just so excited about that because there was a time where his both eyes were going in the same direction, like in the corner, like when you have like a stroke, sometimes it leans to one side, and I was sort of worried about that. But, and his eye just like was looking at me, one of them, right? Because I only opened one. So I said, well, I'll go to the other side and see. And I tried to go onto the other side, and I opened it, and his eyes was just moving around and stuff. And then I let his eyelid shut, right? And then all of a sudden, both his eyelids open. Not completely. They were like halfway, like half, a little bit less than half. Both eyelids open, which we've never seen happen before. And then I called to Michael. I said, Michael, look, because I mean, I thought I was just like, losing it or something. And Michael came and looked and he saw it. He's like, oh my God, Charles's eyes are open. And then we're like, Charles, you know what I mean? And hi, Charles, how's it going? And, and his eyes stayed open for a longer time, for quite a little while. And we were trying to look for the nurse and stuff because I don't know, maybe to document it or maybe she could put the light or something or whatever. But the woman next to him ended up waking from the coma, her coma. So I'm really happy about that. And they were all there attending to her. So, and then after that, his eyes ended up closing back up and stuff. But it was a very exciting moment. Very extremely exciting. I mean, all these little small little things. They did talk about how at the beginning he wasn't pulling, like they were squeezing out of his hands and his feet to check to see if he had any reactions and stuff. I mean, he did make a face, like I saw when they did do it, he did make a face, but they were more looking for a pullback from pain, right? And he didn't do that at first. Then he started doing it. So, which was always another exciting thing. Yeah. Um, and then I'm sorry if I'm bouncing around. My mind is just all messed up. But so after another day, they were talking to me and they were telling me how they were gonna move the breathing tube from his mouth to his neck, and they were gonna do a trachea, right? And they said that it would be more comfortable for him, and also it would be good for if he were to wake up from the coma, then there would be nothing in his throat, right? And and so they ended up doing the trachea. I came in, and it just seemed really weird because seeing it in his mouth and then it was in his neck, and then his head was like this with his mouth was open and his eyes was closed. It was sort of like scared me at a moment for a moment there, but he was fine and everything was good and it went well. They did have to put him in anesthesia for a little bit to cut open a small portion and put a tube to go in. And so, I mean, between going through the big operation, just getting off the anesthesia, then going into another small little operation and going off to anesthesia again, I'm like saying, it's like, when is Charles gonna get this time to try to get his body to heal? You know what I mean? Yeah. But, sometimes they have to do things, right? So the next day, when me and Michael, I sort of jumped around a bit, but sorry. Well, Charles ended up getting sepsis, right? I don't know if it was from the trachea, I don't know what it was from. And because I was in the room and I was holding his hand, and his hand was extremely hot, like hot, hot, both his hands. And I told the nurse. And then they ended up telling me later on when I went home, and they called me and they were saying that, yeah, Charles has had sepsis, not septis, because sepsis is worse where people would pass from it. Sepsis is like sort of, I guess, the starting of it. It's an infection in the blood, right? And and I'm just like, oh my god. I mean, what else can happen? You know what I mean? I mean, and they didn't know they were doing like taking bloods, samples, this, getting it all, to find out exactly what was wrong with them. They started giving them medications to help with infection wise, right? But they didn't know exactly what the source was. And finally, they did find out what it was, and they started giving him the medications that he needed to help him get rid of it, right? So that was like a few days on it, on the medication and stuff. And I kept on, calling because I had to work 2 nights. And every night I would call 2, 3 times to make sure to see how he was doing. And then the second night, well, during the day, the doctor, the evil doctor, I'll just call him, ended up calling me from the, and well, I didn't know who it was. I was like, I thought it was like the hospital just telling me, oh, maybe Charles's eyes are open or something, you know. So the doctor, evil doctor, called me and told me and started talking to me and stuff and telling me how, you know, how um, do you think that Charles would like to be stuck on the machine for the rest of his life? Do you think Charles would be happy being fed through a tube for the rest of his life? And he was like really feeding it to me, like, like to the point where I was almost believing that, and I said, no, of course I would never want Charles to just be stuck on a machine and a feeding tube for the rest of his life. And he said, did you think that he would want that? And you know what I mean? You don't want to see your loved one going through things like that. And he almost like really got to me. And this is the person that really wanted to unplug Charles. It seemed like it at the beginning, right? Like it came across that to me, but you know what I mean? He didn't, you know. So, and then all of a sudden he's like telling me near the end, he mentions to me, he goes like this, well, Charles is not getting any pullback from when we squeeze him and stuff like that. And I told him, I said that just yesterday, or the day before just that, Charles's eyes opened, both of them, a small percentage, each one. And then the nurse, when I've called she told me that he was having pullback. She told me that his eyes opened also for her. And I said, did you mark it in, I asked her if she marked it out. She said yes. Also, when I was in there, when was happening with me and Michael was there, and I asked her, did she mark that? She, yes, I'm going to mark it in his chart to let him know that his eyes did open that time. Also, his eyes opened for her as well, and followed the light and things like that. And she was telling me, and he had pulled back and all that. And this is what I'm telling to Mr. Evil Doctor, right? And he was like, oh. And I'm like, in my head, oh, what? You didn't check the charts, but yet you decided to tell me and try to make me feel guilty and make me feel bad that, oh, do you want your husband to be on a tube, a feeding machine for the rest of your life? Do you want your husband to be breathing on a machine for the rest of your life? But yet you don't even check the charts from the nurse that's been there for 24 hours a day, every single day that he's been there. And you don't check this shit? You know what I mean? Seriously? And it just totally destroyed me. That I mean, I do go for a lot of walks to get some fresh air and stuff, and I went for walks and I just totally broke down. And I told Michael about it because he went home and like I drove him to the airport. I think it was the night before that, and so yeah, I know I'm jumping around a bit. I'm sorry about that, but so I called Michael and I told him exactly what he said, and I said, I mean, the guy didn't even check the charts. He didn't check anything, and he's just shooting this bullshit into me. And I'm saying to myself, it's like, imagine if there are people, loved ones that have family members that are in there and they're very like gullible and also not, maybe I might be using the wrong words, but also, people that aren't as strong, especially considering in the situations, and start going with this person, you know what I mean? And agreeing with them because I didn't go with the person. I didn't agree with anything he said. And I did not, there was no way that I was ever going to go with in his direction ever, right? So, and I was thinking about all these other people. So I was going to call the hospital, but I was just too, like, distraught, too worn out, too, like, sometimes I even had hard times walking and trying to collect myself and everything after all this. I even called in sick because I couldn't even, work. So I was gonna call the hospital, but I didn't, and I waited until I collected myself. So I finally got the courage to call the hospital because after what he said and everything. And I called and she said, when did you get your last update? And I was saying, well, I think it was like roughly 2 days. I didn't mention about, talking to the doctor. I mean, update from the nurse, you know what I mean? I'd rather go through the nurse than go through this doctor. And and she goes, oh, okay. And she goes, oh, Charles is gripping. When I asked Charles, oh, are you in pain? If you're in pain, grip my hand. And then he would grip her hand. Yeah. And his eyes would open, of course. Then she said that he would follow her, look at her, and things like that with his eyes like semi-open and stuff. And she was saying that he's gripping his hands. They said that they got him out of bed and they put him in like a sling type thing to move him from out of the bed and to sit him in a chair so it's a different position. I'm like, what? I mean, they've never done that. So I mean, and she never really said anything. That's all she said is that he had movements in his feet, twinges. He's gripping with his hand. He's following instructions. Like whenever she asks him to say, like if it hurts or if if you could hear me, he would answer by squeezing her hands, right? So I'm like, what the? And then after this doctor is telling me all this shit, like, you know what I mean? And she's telling me that I was extremely, extremely happy. I mean, it was the best news ever that I ever received so far. So I decided that I'm going to go and see Charles. So, which was today. I went to go see Charles, driving down, extremely happy because he's like, to have that type of reaction, you know what I mean? So I go. You have to ring the bell and talk and stuff. And they said, well, she's setting something up or something like that. And I had to wait like 40 minutes before. And then she finally got me. And I went in and I walked in and I saw him and his eyes were open, both completely wide open. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe it. I said, his eyes are open. She goes, yeah, they've been open for a few days, like 2 days or something like that. I'm like, what? And I'm like, he's out of the coma. And I know it's a silly question because his eyes are open, but he's out of the coma. Out of the coma. And then when I saw him, his like gorgeous brown eyes staring at me. I mean, I just started sobbing and crying and crying. Good tears, of course. Good tears. Yeah. And so what I did is like he was following me like with his eyes. And then I walked to the other side because like, with the tube and stuff on the side, I wanted to give him kisses and stuff. So I walked around, and as I was walking around, his eyes are following me the whole time. With his eyes wide open, perfectly open, following me around. And I went and I kissed him around. I kissed him, I hugged him. I said I loved him so much, and I was just so excited to see that his eyes were open because I mean, I didn't even know that he was awake. I mean, I thought they were going to call me to tell me that he was awake, but I mean, yeah. So, yeah. So he's out of the coma. He's out of the coma. And she said that he was sitting in the chair for 4 hours prior before I came, right? So that's a lot of stress on him. His eyes were open, looking at me. He saw that I was there. I kissed him. I hugged him. I even put my phone. I put Michael on speed dial and on a speakerphone. And when he heard his voice, he was just like listening. You could see his eyes moving because I was moving the phone around and stuff, and he was just following it and listening and everything. And she's like, yeah, he's been listening, and I talk to him all the time, and it was just the best day ever. The best day ever. Yeah. So I stayed for quite a while, and then Charles was like he was up for a bit, but then he was falling asleep because having a long day, and Doctor Evil ended up coming up while Charles was sleeping, and he told me, he goes, yeah, yesterday Charles had a really hard day. I mean, waking up and all that stuff. Not hard day, but a really good day, I guess I'm assuming, right? And hard day meaning like, it takes a lot out of you and stuff, right? And then with the chair and this and that and just waking up and stuff. And he told me, which the good doctor told me a long time ago, he said that Charles has a long journey, but yeah. And that's what the good doctor said a long time ago, before all this stupid bullshit that this other guy said. But yeah. So you have pretty much everything. Oh, so I stayed with Charles. Like I stayed there for like I think it was almost 6 hours. And he was off and on, like awake because I knew he was exhausted and stuff. So every time I tried to go home because I knew that he was exhausted, his eyes would open, right? And then I would like feel bad, leaving. So I would stay and stuff. And then he fell asleep, and then I left because I thought it would be a bit better if, I'd fall asleep. I mean, when he was sleeping, I'd, leave and stuff. So, leaving on a good note, right? I'm driving all the way home from Kelowna and stuff on the highway, the Weary. It was during the day, anyways. And then all of a sudden, my car um, engine light starts flickering and stuff, and the speed of my car starts to slow down. And then I'm on this windy highway where there's water on one side and mountains on the other. And then I had to pull over to the side because of the engine light. I thought maybe it was overheating or something, right? So, yeah. And then I stopped there for a bit on the side of the highway. Excuse me. And then I started it again and tried to drive a little bit further because we do have like lookout sections. And I tried to reach a lookout section so that way I could pull off and go down, you know what I mean? And then maybe sit the car and let it rest a bit. But I had to call BCAA and wait like an hour and a half. And then they had to tow me to a Canadian Tire, which was more near mine, which was, I it was like $100 to tow. And then now the car is sitting at Canadian Tire, and now that has to be repaired. But those are minor things, right? So the most important is that Charles is awake and he's recovering. Recovering. I think in overall it's been like 2 weeks, roughly. But yeah, it's been a very hard road with a good, amazing outcome at the end of it so far. So yeah, the only thing is that I'm thinking of is probably trying to, because now's the time that Charles needs me the most, and the thing is financial wise too. I mean, it's always about that, right? So I'm thinking of probably going on some sort of disability, or I don't know, EI or something, so that way I can get a few months or whatever where I'll be able to see him every day and, motivate him and, you know, help him get stronger every single day. But yeah, I hope I hope I told the story in the right direction. I mean, and it wasn't too all over the place. I do apologize for the emotional stuff. It's still, I mean, it's still so hard to, I just, I was lucky that I had friends that I could do Zooms and stuff. I don't have anyone here except for Charles, myself, and my roommate. That's all I have here. I don't have family members here. I don't have anyone here. And there was so many things going through my head. I mean, so many things. But it's all good now, right? I mean, it's still a long road. It's going to still take some time. And I was sort of thinking about uh, doing a vlog channel of following, risk recoveries and my routines and my stuff and things like that. And also, I mean, you never know because there's so many people in the world that go through so many things, right? And I would love to, I mean, because I've never been through anything like this before. And, you know, I thought that maybe if I could record this thing and record it and help other people if they're ever in need of in this situation, that maybe some of my things that I would say would help them and guide them and direct them in the right direction. And always get second opinions and always stay strong because you never know who will try to say these negative things. Like for me, it was a doctor of all people, people that you would think that you would trust and stuff. But you know what I mean? Always get second opinions, always trust your gut, and always stay strong. Always stay strong. So that's the whole reason why I was thinking about doing a vlog, because of the journey of our life, and to more give people awareness and, maybe guidance or something or some sort of help. Because me dealing with something on my own, not on my own, I do have friends, but like through Zoom and stuff. But I mean, on your own, like at your house and making all these decisions and stuff, it can be hard. So, it'd be nice to have someone that's already been through it. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the hardest thing is when you start thinking about like, I should have said this, I should have done that. You know what I mean? I should have been closer, or I should have been, I don't know. Yeah. I'm so happy that I'm getting this, you know, chance to say all these things. like right now I'm by myself. I mean, I was gonna go and visit Charles tonight, but because the car didn't work, I guess it wasn't meant to be. I mean, sometimes Charles does have long days, and and with just waking up, he just may need that time, you know, to just relax, gain his strength, get his strength, you know, and stay strong. Yeah, stay strong. So I'll get off now. Probably try to get some sleep and see if they call about the car and see how things are with that. Yeah. But I just wanted to let everyone know. I'll probably leave the video up a little bit and delete it in the morning. But yeah. So all in all, it's been a crazy little ride. But yeah, and everyone, if everyone's in this situation, stay strong, stay true to your heart. You know, don't let people try to change your mind. Love is a powerful thing, and the connections between two people are so strong. You know, I know sometimes it's hard, you know, coming from a doctor's perspective of things, but they're not always right. Right? Always get a second opinion. Okay. So on that note, everyone have an amazing night. I thank you so much for all the support and love and sending the positive energies towards Charles. I really, really appreciate it. And have a good night, okay? Okay, bye for now. Thanks.